LawCall is provided in the public interest by Timberlake League and Brooks, which pays an advertising fee to this station.
This is WAAY 31 Law Call.
Welcome to WAAY 31 Law Call. I'm Sharon Doviet. We continue celebrating Law Call's 30th anniversary. Law Call has been on the air for 30 years, answering your questions on any kind of legal topic, and we've got another Ask Us Anything night tonight. We're going to talk about everything from fender benders to car crashes to family law issues to constitutional law issues and what's been going on with the Supreme Court this week. You can text or call in the 31 Law Call number, 256-536-0077. Call and be live on the air, or text us your question to that number. We've got some of your text questions coming in tonight. You can also email a legal question any day of the week on any legal topic. You send it to lawcall@waaytv.com, and when we get to a show that's on point, we pull some out. We've got some of your email questions tonight. We've also got Will League from Timberlake League and Brooks. Right. Happy 30th anniversary.
You know, a couple of good things. He has risen, right, Sharon?
Yes.
He's risen in
Yes.
30 years doing
Yes.
Law Call.
Yes.
You know, it just seems like yesterday we started this, and you know, some new thing about email came out, and we're getting emails. So it's been a long, interesting ride.
We've got some video. Take us back. Let's see what we've got. Do we have some video of Will from back in the day?
Oh goodness.
We'll pull it.
Tonight, Will League, we have a show that a lot of people have a lot of misconceptions about. It's about medical malpractice. We're calling it medical mistakes, and always a lot of questions about, even if you sign a consent form at the hospital, what that means.
You know, we're talking about the pros and cons of, you know, hopefully you don't find yourself in that position. If you do, trying to tell you what your rights are, what the avenues are of, you know, remedying the situation. You know, litigation is not necessarily the way to go. We'll talk about that. Be the first one to call, 536-0077. We have a medical expert tonight with us. Hopefully help us answer some of those questions.
All right. We'll be taking your questions live on the air right after the newscast. Give us a call. Be the first on the docket on Law Line. Taking your calls tonight on medical mistakes, 536-0077.
And now, you know, you still get a little nervous. I do. You know, whatever we're talking about, you know, we're talking about people's lives, you know, cases, something's important to them. So I get a little nervous, and as soon as I get relaxed, then I get stumped again, right? So it's
if you're away for a couple of weeks, there's a little nervousness to it when you come back.
That's right. But it's been fantastic. All the calls over the years, and you know, good, crazy, bad, you know, all of them, trying to answer the questions. And it's been a pleasure to, you know, to be in the Tennessee Valley for 30 years and practicing law here. And I love the community, love the people, and couldn't ask for a better place to live and raise a family.
Part of the fun of doing the show is that the law changes, and every week there's something new. And we thought we'd talk about some of the things going on with the Supreme Court this week. They're about to make some big decisions, including the birthright citizenship case.
Right. So last week, as you know, the president signed an executive order banning birthright citizenship. So how did that start? All right, so let's go back to 1857. The Dred Scott decision from the United States Supreme Court basically said slaves cannot have citizenship. Okay, something along the Civil War came out. After the Civil War, then there was a change. 14th Amendment came out granting birthright citizenship to basically address the slave issue, to where former slaves could have citizenship if they were born here, right? And there were some exceptions. Foreign diplomat children, if we had enemy forces, children of enemy forces while they're here. But basically, that is the law of the land. That is in the Constitution. Now, there's a debate as to whether or not there's jurisdiction over someone who was born here. Let's say their parents are illegal. And then does the United States have jurisdiction over that child if it did not have jurisdiction over the parents? And I believe that's what the Trump administration is coming at from that perspective. Now, if you disagree with it, that's fine, but the way to change the Constitution is 2/3 vote of Congress, and then 75%, 3/4 of the states have to ratify an amendment to the Constitution. Now, back then, you know, we needed people to settle this land. We needed people to do all the things that are growing population needs. Do we need that now? That's debatable. But again, the way to address it is not an executive order according to the law, and we'll see what the Supreme Court decides. But if you have any questions or want to talk about that, give us a shout, 536-0077, and we'll see what the Supreme Court comes out with, Sharon. You know?
Edward, we've got callers on the line with questions or comments. We've got Edward on the line with a question or comment from Ardmore. Hi, Edward. Thanks for calling in. What's your question or comment tonight?
I was a question about church that we closed down because of the COVID and older people, and I was going to say what's legal, what can we do with it? Can we sell it, rent it, or just keep it, or what?
Well, so let me ask you this. You're saying a church closed down because of COVID, and can you do anything about it? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, I was there 33 years.
So kind of what can be done with the property? Is that sort of where we're going with that?
Ma'am, I understand you.
Okay, so let's say the church closed down. Depending on, is it like the Catholic Church where it trickles down and they own the property? Mm-hmm. Is it corporate land? Or is it local land of that particular church, and how is it deeded and what's going on? So if there's a sale of property, it'll go back to whatever correct entity owns that property may sell it at their discretion. And so if the church owns it, the church can go, and a lot of times that will go back to the founding church within their particular denomination, like the Southern Baptist Union, Catholic Church, depending on the nature of who owns the church. But it's usually, unless there's a collection and there's some type of corporation with all the members, I don't see that money trickling out to the members unless it was subsidized or put together in that fashion. I hope that answers your question. I'm not exactly sure what he was asking.
I'm going to go back to your birthright citizenship issue, because I do find it fascinating. Trump is the first president ever to actually go sit and watch oral arguments. That was different. It could have possibly affect millions of people if it went retroactively, right? Where do you stop?
That is quite interesting. And I see both sides of the argument. We're encouraging people to break the law, and then they come here, they have a child, and that child, therefore, is a citizen of the United States, right?
Right.
And so that may encourage, illegal crossings or illegal being here illegally. There was a reason back when it was done, right after the Civil War, does that reasoning still stand? It's still the law of the land. Birthright citizenship is the law of the land as it stands. And the only way that I know to change the Constitution is 2/3 of Congress and then 3/4 of the states to ratify that. So it's a bold move, and that's not unlike our current president to make a bold move to try and push the needle. But again, the courts, if they're going to interpret the law, I don't see how they can side with the president, and it has to go to Congress. But we'll see. We'll see what we'll see what the Supreme Court decides. It's 6 Republicans to 3 Democrats, and maybe they'll go with the president on this one. But it seems like it'd be unconstitutional, but they are the supreme law of the land. Yeah. They interpret the laws, and it would be maybe a constitutional crisis if they said the Constitution, the 14th Amendment, is unconstitutional now. What does that look like?
Ooh, yeah.
And retroactively, talking about millions and millions of people.
Yeah.
And so maybe it's in the future. Maybe they wouldn't apply it retroactively, but we're watching that closely and see what the Supreme Court comes out with.
Part of their arguments and part of the discussion in front of the Supreme Court was talking about it's a different time now. You can get into this country so much faster than you could back in Civil War times.
Right.
It wasn't like you had millions of people coming every year, just travel and tourism. So it's an issue that has developed since then. So you couldn't foresee that part of travel.
Yeah, the lightning travel that we have now versus back then.
Yeah.
When you go back to the Second Amendment gun ownership, back then you could have a musket. You could have many muskets you want, but you couldn't have your own cannon. You couldn't have your own bazooka. So there was limits. So now when we talk about Second Amendment gun ownership, you can have it's to protect you and your family, but can you have a nuclear bomb? The law says you cannot. And so there are parameters, and as time passes, things change.
Yeah.
And so the birthright citizenship, if it's changed, then we talk to our congressman. We talked to our representatives in Congress to put forward a bill to change that. And is there a 2/3 vote in Congress to therefore change the 14th Amendment? And will it be ratified by the states? Nowhere in the Constitution says the executive branch can make that change. The president tried to do it. It was probably going to be held unconstitutional. But the way to do it is through Congress, through votes of the state of the representatives in the national legislature.
We've got Walt on the line with a question or comment from Owens Crossroads. Hi, Walt. Thanks for staying up with us tonight. What's your question tonight?
How you doing?
Hi, doing well. Thanks for calling.
I have a question. I'm having a problem with the VA.
Okay.
I'm a Vietnam vet, who has,
Yes, sir. Keep going. Vietnam vet? Did we lose Walt? I think we lost Walt. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. We'll see if we can get Walt back on the line and ask his question about VA benefits. Stay with us. 31 Law Call still ahead.
Brooks, which pays an advertising fee to this station.
You're watching WAAY 31 Law Call, the Tennessee Valley's only live legal call-in show for 30 years and counting. Presented by the award-winning personal injury and wrongful death law firm Timberlake, League & Brooks, featuring the knowledge and experience of attorney Michael Timberlake, attorney Will League, attorney Heath Brooks, attorney William Meservey, attorney Bobby Marsh, and hosted by family law attorney Sharon Doviet. Your rights, your calls, live. This is WAAY 31 Law Call.
Welcome back to 31 Law Call. Tonight it's an Ask Us Anything night, but we're also celebrating. Law Call's been on the air for 30 years.
30 years, Sharon. I
Look
mean,
how
it's
people
crazy.
have changed.
It's crazy. Oh my gosh. 26 years old
You've
in
aged well.
1996 and now 56. So here we go. Oh my goodness.
No, you're looking
that's
good.
way back in
You're
the day.
looking good.
That kid.
We've got callers waiting. Tim's on the line with a question or comment from Huntsville. Hi, Tim. Thanks for calling in. Thanks for watching tonight. What's your question tonight?
Hi, it's just a comment on some of the things you've been saying
Okay.
about the birthright citizenship case.
What do you think?
I think you're getting a little off track. There are
Okay.
actually two relevant decisions. It's not just Wong Kim Ark in 1898. There was a previous decision called Elk versus somebody about 1884, 1885. That previous decision held that Native Americans are not U.S. citizens unless they have disaffiliated from their tribes.
Okay.
It took the American Indian Citizenship Act of 1924 to make Native American babies automatically U.S. citizens. You cannot square the current broad interpretation of Wong Kim Ark with the previous decision on Native Americans. The two are not logically compatible.
I agree.
The court, maybe you need to look at Justice John Marshall Harlan's dissent in Wong Kim Ark. Keep in mind, he was the great dissenter. He also got it right in Plessy versus Ferguson. He was the only dissenter there, too.
Right.
So I think there's a logical incompatibility with the way Wong Kim Ark has been interpreted. If you look back at the previous Supreme Court decision on Native American citizenship.
So what do you think we should do about the citizenship issue? Should everybody who was born in this country but didn't have the right citizenship, should millions of people be deported at this point, or do you look at it going forward? What do you think should happen, Tim?
Well, I think as a practical matter, I think you have to just look prospectively.
Interesting. I mean, so what do you think about the Missouri Compromise around that time? They said, okay, Missouri comes in as a slave state, and they're going to equal it by Maine coming in as a free state. And then I think the Dred Scott overturned that, if I'm not mistaken.
The Civil War settled that. All the Reconstruction amendments settled the Missouri Compromise.
Right.
The Missouri Compromise was over slavery. When the 13th Amendment passed, that was moot. The Missouri Compromise was 1850.
Okay. So let me ask you. So when do you think those cases clearly address the 14th Amendment, saying it is now? But how do we get around the 14th Amendment and making that change?
Okay, that's after that. That's like 15 years. That's like 17 years after the 14th Amendment.
Right. Well, I mean, how do you square the 14th Amendment? Saying these cases interpret the 14th Amendment, thereby to not grant all.
And I just said the way Wong Kim Ark has been the broad interpretation given to Wong Kim Ark. Whereas anybody born in the country, regardless of the parent's legal status, is automatically a citizen, is logically incompatible with the previous decision on Native American citizenship from about 1885.
Okay.
That is, Native American babies born in the country were not automatically citizens. They didn't become citizens automatically until the American Indian Citizenship Act was passed by Congress in 1924.
Okay.
26 years after Wong Kim Ark.
Interesting. Okay.
So what I'm saying is the interpretation you're giving to Wong Kim Ark and the way it has been read does not logically square with what was decided on Native Americans about 12 or 14 years earlier.
Okay. Interesting. Well, I appreciate it. And we'll look at that decision. Let me ask you, do you think the jurisdictional argument is in play because we may not have jurisdiction over those particular individuals?
We may have lost it.
If you're saying somebody who's here, birth tourist, their baby is a citizen. This is the condition as it was in 1897, prior to Wong Kim Ark. Not 1897, 1900, say, between Wong Kim Ark and Native American citizenship.
Okay.
In 1900, you could have somebody, a pregnant woman who has a baby in the country, goes back to the home country, takes the baby with her. That baby is automatically a citizen, yet at the same time, a Native American baby is not a citizen.
Yeah, that doesn't logically square. I agree with you. Good point.
And so my conclusion is the interpretation of Wong Kim Ark, as we've dealt with it all this time, is incorrect.
So there's some precedent there that would lend to overturning. Interesting.
Thank you, Tim.
Yeah,
Thanks
Tim,
for watching.
thanks so much. Yes, sir.
We've got Walt back on the line. Walt is from Owens Crossroads, and he's a veteran. Walt, thank you for your service, and you're having difficulty with getting your medication filled. Is that right?
Yeah, I am a Vietnam vet who was on disability for sugar, diabetes. I was prescribed Jardian by the VA. About 3 months ago, they sent us out a card to start cutting the Jardian in half. And I went to my family doctor and asked him about it. He said, they were telling me that a half is just as good as a whole pill. I went to my family doctor, and he told me, yeah, that's kind of true, but that wouldn't work for me. I went to my primary care doctor at the VA, and she said to me that she would love to prescribe it to me, but the pharmacy would never fill it. And this was a blanket. It came out on a postcard to cut them in half. Now, I believe everybody that's on Jardian from the VA was told to cut them in half.
That's interesting that they would say one size fits all. Now, there may be some studies showing that half is just as clinically effective, medicinally, as a whole pill. But again, the theory and thought behind, I want my doctor making the decisions for me and not the corporations, I think prevails. Most people agree with that statement. If they agree with that statement, I think it's a reasonable argument that as opposed to an administration making the decision, your doctor make that call. Now, they went ahead and said, we're not filling an entire prescription or however they're going to do it. Your only recourse, now when you're talking about VA, you're talking about administrative law, and so there's an appeals process you have to go through, and I'm sorry to tell you, it's quite cumbersome and red tape ridden. However, there is an appellate process within the VA system that you can go. Now, your doctor's going to have to stand up and go to bat for you and say, look, I've reviewed this man's records. I have given a physical, clinical, all these things, and in my medical opinion, he needs X amount of milligrams of this particular drug. And you take that information and then appeal it on your particular case and see if the panel will hear your particular appeal. And it's really upsetting, Sharon, when when insurance companies just have a blanket, we're no longer paying for this.
Yeah.
And they'll have, like in a lot of our cases where let's say my client needs a knee surgery.
Yeah.
The insurance company sends those records to a doctor in Ohio who hasn't had a clinical evaluation of my client, doesn't have any, they've got the cold records.
Right.
And then they'll render an opinion, and then the insurance company then denies that surgery based on a doctor who has not seen that patient. That quality assurance, I don't think it's quality at all. And we're not seeing as much as we used to, but it ebbs and flows with how much money the insurance companies are making. Right. When the stock market's down and they're having a rough time, you see more denials, and it's all about squeezing the dollar for the insurance company. And that's why you want your state insurance regulation to be as good and powerful as it can be, because it's there to protect you. It's there to protect all the citizens. And I get it, on the political scale, when some people want to be liberal, some are conservative. But if you don't allow your state insurance department to regulate how they conduct insurance business in your state, you're subject to that type of scrutiny as well. And don't think you're not, because it can happen to anybody.
Thank you, Walt. We've got Amy on the line with a question or comment from Decatur. Hi, Amy. Thanks for calling in tonight. What's your question or comment? Hey, Amy, are you with us?
We've got Amy on the line with a question.
Amy, just listen through your phone. There's a little delay if you're listening with your TV. So turn down your TV and just listen through your phone.
Yes, I have a question.
Okay.
Yes, can you hear me?
I can.
Yes,
Go
ma'am.
ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, just listen through your phone. Turn your TV down because there's a delay.
Can you hear me now?
We can.
Yes. I have a sibling that has moved in my parents' house. Okay, hold on. Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay, I have a sibling that has moved in my parents' house, and he resides in it, and he is doing illegal things. I have the deed with my name that is on the property, but the police will not allow me on the property, even though I have the deed, but they say that he is allowed on the property because he resides on it. What rights do I have?
Okay. That doesn't seem logical if it's not his property. Just because he claims residency, I'm unaware of any law that allows him to squat just because he claims it. Now, the police they're there to enforce the law, all right? So you are going to have to get an order from a judge to evict him because it's not his property. You as the owner do not give him permission to live there. And so either it's an eviction or some other type of action that you'll have to go in front of a judge and get a verdict. And once you get that verdict, then the officers can help you evict your brother from that home. And so you got to go that route. The officers show up on the scene. They're not going to interpret the order. They're not going to interpret the fuss because they don't know. And you're going to need them to enforce a court order, and you're going to have to go through the steps. So I would recommend contacting a real estate eviction lawyer and start that process.
Good luck with it, Amy. We're going to take a break. Be right back answering more of your questions. It's Ask Us Anything night.
which pays an advertising fee to this station.
If you haven't gotten your questions answered tonight, here's how to get in touch with Will League with Timberlake League and Brooks in Huntsville, 256-536-0770 or 800-804-2502. The website is law-injury.com. And if you like them on Facebook, you can learn more about the law that way.
And our very own Sharon Doviet, 539-7337, family law, child custody, divorce, SharonFamilyLaw.com.
Can't believe it's been 30 years.
You know, on behalf of the firm, the staff, everybody behind the cameras, everybody, the producers, we just like to thank, you know, the viewers out there, the interaction, the questions, the back and forth. That makes it, you know, a live TV show, you know, answering questions live and being that back and forth.
Yeah, even if you disagree.
There's nothing like it. We can disagree, and that's the beautiful thing about this country. And, you know, we're going to keep answering these questions, and we depend on you guys for the questions and comments, and we, you know, heartfelt thank you.
Thank you. Have a good week.